Hello and welcome to the Mission TV show. So glad you could join us tonight. I'm sorry, it's the Mission TV Live. Sorry, we're a little out of sorts around here this evening, but it's probably just me. Our topic for this evening is a crumb from the rich man's table. And there's a little bit of a subtitle to this one, or an or, you could say, or how to get closer to Jesus. So what's the contrast there? We'll find out this evening. And I have a text that goes along with our topic this evening. It'll probably be a little bit of a clue to you as to what the or, actually how those two parts of the topic tie together. And that is in Deuteronomy 15 and verse 11. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command thee, saying, Thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother, to thy poor and to thy needy in thy land. So God is attaching the poor and needy to us. It's very interesting. So we'll get to our topic in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to encourage you to participate in the show by calling us at 423-413-7321, by emailing live@missiontv.com, by checking in with us on Facebook, and that is Mission TV Live, and then also on Twitter at missiontv_com. So any of those ways you can message us during the show and it will be passed on to us directly, or if you call in and you are brave, you can speak to us on the live. I know some people don't want to hear it, don't want themselves to be heard, but you can call and leave us a message on the phone. So don't think that you have to be on the live if you call. So also, we want to share a little bit more about the tree behind me. We talked about that on our Thanksgiving special. If you haven't had the privilege of watching that show yet, you might want to watch it and find out a little more about why we have a Christmas tree on our set. But you see, there's a few envelopes on there, and there's actually some little pins on there. And the Christmas tree is for gifts for the poor. We're taking this from instruction from Mrs. White. And so if you give a donation through Jesus for Asia and you say on it, Mission TV Tree, we will put a envelope up there with your name on it, saying that you gave a donation for the tree. And that is, if you can give for Mission TV, you can give for any of the other projects, just mark it Mission TV Tree and we will put an envelope on the tree. We're trying to decorate the tree with gifts this year, gifts to help further the gospel in every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And the pins that are up there are for, they say I fed 100 children in India, the ones that are up there now. And that is because we had a viewer that actually gave a donation of $50 and said, I want 2 buttons on the tree because 1 button is $25 and feeds 100 children. And so this donor wanted 200 children fed. So that was awesome. And then there's a larger one for $250. You can feed 1,000 children in India. So that one's quite a commitment, but it's awesome. So if you want to participate in hanging those on the tree, we'll also send you your own so that you can give them as Christmas gifts to your family or friends if you want to. But we'll send you a copy of the button and we'll put one on the tree in your name. So we just invite you to participate. We want to see the tree full before the end of the season. So, honey, let's start on our topic tonight. What does a crumb from the rich man's table have to do with being closer to Jesus? We need to tie that in, but let's get started on our topic for this evening. I know we have a lot to cover.
Yeah, it's a big show, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be a heavy show.
Yeah.
But there's some reasons for that. You know, it says that godly sorrow worketh unto repentance, unto righteousness, unto life.
Okay.
The worldly sorrow worketh death. We don't want the worldly sorrow. But this is taken out of the parable that Jesus told in Luke chapter 16. Beginning with basically verse 19. And it's talking about the rich man and Lazarus. You know, you get the rich man in his house. In his
wealthy home.
And he's, eats sumptuously every day, dresses in fine linen, and then there's Lazarus that's begging at his gate.
Okay.
And while he's begging, he's desiring to eat just a crumb from the rich man's table. And dogs come and lick at his sores while he's begging. And then what's interesting...
And he's not given a crumb from the rich man's table.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that after they both die, then things are completely reversed. And you find the rich man in hell, and the beggar in the bosom of Abraham, which is,
In heaven.
in heaven.
Which is an interesting illustration that Jesus chose to give there.
Yeah, right. But it's the fact is that it's switched.
Right.
And the rich man didn't know that that was going to happen.
Circumstances.
Exactly. And so he says, come and help me. And he says, you, in your life on earth, you receive good things. This man received bad. Now he gets his reward.
Turn.
Yes, exactly. And so the rich man says, well, why don't you at least let me go back to my family, because I have brothers that if they knew this was going to happen, they would change. And Jesus says something very interesting. He says, even if one rose from the dead, they have Moses and the prophets, even if one rose from the dead, they wouldn't change. And so Jesus is talking about a very, very difficult subject. Difficult in that it's like got its claws in our human nature. It's like the substance of our human nature. And to overcome that is not easy. And,
Right.
And that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And what we're talking about tonight is we want to take a look at poverty. Okay? And poverty is something that most people that I know don't like to look at poverty. I don't know anybody that goes to the internet and does a search for poverty and does research. And the reason we want to talk about this is that, what was it, last summer? 2012.
Right.
We had the opportunity to, and this has been a dream for many, many years of mine, to put a full-page ad on the back cover of the Adventist World. Okay, so it's a great magazine, has a big, I think they told me 360,000 homes receive this magazine. And so I had a picture that we have always used. It's this little boy.
And from the gypsy colony in India.
Exactly. And I wanted to, put this on, but a lot of people had complained about his runny nose.
Yeah. Someone told me just today. He doesn't look happy. He doesn't look healthy. He doesn't look... It's like, yeah, that's the whole point. Right.
Exactly. And so I spent 3 hours cleaning him up on Photoshop, and you can see that I took
You wiped his nose.
I wiped his nose digitally. And then we printed this, and out of 360, we did it 2 months in a row. And out of both of those months, we received how many calls?
I don't know. I think maybe a dozen from people that were interested in what we do as a ministry. Maybe a dozen, maybe more than that, but not too many more than that.
So maybe 12.
Maybe.
Out of 360,000.
But I don't think there were 20. I mean, not very many.
So out of 360,000...
2 months in a row.
Homes, 2 months in a row, we got maybe 12 calls.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could figure out, we got one email. And the email said, next time you take a picture, can you spend some time and clean up the little boy before you take his picture? So that, because he gives me bad feelings.
Yeah.
And
that was one of the most heartbreaking emails I've ever seen.
Yeah.
When I saw that come through, it just made me want to cry, because it's like, wow. I mean, we did clean it. We didn't clean him up before we took his picture.
Right.
But we cleaned him up afterward, at least part of it.
Right.
And it's like, if that makes us uncomfortable, maybe we should be uncomfortable, but we're fighting against that discomfort. That just...
Somebody told me that when they looked at it, they just wanted to turn away. But this is a child that God sees every day. And does God turn his face away? No. And what does Jesus tell us to do? Take the gospel to the poor.
Well, in the verse that I just wrote, he calls them our poor. He says, you're poor, you're needy.
Yes. And so this is the issue that is I want to talk about, because we were in Santa Cruz once, and there was a very well-dressed man taking, obviously, a lady out on a date, walking down the street, and there were some homeless people there, and he apologized to her that she had to see these homeless people. It's like, why are we apologizing for humanity? For specimens of humanity, children of God? Why do we hide our eyes from people that aren't as comfortable as we are, and aren't as well favored as we are?
He calls them our own flesh.
Exactly.
In the scripture, he calls them our own flesh. And he tells us to hide not ourselves from our own flesh.
Yes. And so I want to take a good look today at poverty, because we're living in the information age, but we know so little about it. What is it like to live on $1 a day? These are questions that we rarely ask. So I want to look, first of all, at some statistics, world statistics. Okay? Most people don't realize that more people live inside that circle in Asia than live outside of it.
Wow, that's not a very large area of the world.
Right. So more than 50%.
But it includes China and India and Indonesia and...
India is 1.2 billion, China is 1.4 billion. I mean, right there is two almost half the world right there, just those two countries. And then 90% of all unreached people live there also.
Inside that circle.
Inside that circle.
Wow.
But over 90% of all Christian giving goes to the minister, the 5% that lives over here.
Wow.
So you got a big discrepancy.
Disparity. Yeah.
And that other, 10% that doesn't go there, it goes South America, Africa, Europe, all over the place.
It has to cover the rest of the world.
Exactly.
That 10%.
Right. So you've got a big disparity between what we spend on ourselves and what we spend on others.
On the gospel.
Which is exactly opposite of what Christianity really is all about.
That's true.
Even Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan tells us, whatever opportunity there is, whoever needs help, that is the person that you
that
make
is your neighbor.
Exactly. And he says, go and do thou likewise. So I want to look at some of these. These are just pictures that I went on Google and I searched for poverty and I clicked on images. And these are the images, so anybody can go and find these images and look at them themselves and see the stories behind these images. But I wanted to put in this beautiful passage in Education, page 263. As the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together, that's in Romans, the heart of the infinite Father is pained in sympathy. I don't think we understand how this affects God. It affects us so that we want to turn away, but God has feelings too.
He doesn't turn away.
But it pains his heart. When he sees a little boy suffering in hunger, when he feels that hunger pain, God feels that hunger pain. Our world is a vast laser house. Can you explain laser house? House.
It's basically another name for disease. Yeah. So it's like a house full of disease.
Okay.
Diseased people.
A scene of misery that we dare not allow even our thoughts to dwell upon. Did we realize it as it is?
So if we think about the whole world's suffering all at once.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And if we keep thinking, I think we need to see it because that's our work.
Right.
But if we keep dwelling on it over, for a long period of time, we'll get just really
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And thinking about the way the Father sees it, the whole world all at once.
Right. And I don't think we can see it. We don't have that kind of information.
Right.
Did we realize it as it is, the burden would be too terrible. So, but a little glimpse, a little peek is very, very good, I think, because yet God feels it all. Can you imagine feeling that kind of pain?
He doesn't just see it, he feels it.
Exactly. These kids, in order to destroy sin, because he doesn't just leave it there, okay?
It's not just suffering and God feels it.
Yeah, there's a solution. He says, in order to destroy sin and its results, in other words, God did something. God gave. God gave to destroy the sin. His only Son. And he has put it, now this is the thing.
I like the way she puts that. You skipped it, but I like it.
Okay.
His best beloved.
Yes. He gave his very best, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yes. And he has put it in our power.
Interesting.
Through cooperation with him, to bring the scene of misery to an end.
So God started it by sending his best beloved. Mm-hmm. And then if we cooperate with him,
it's in our power to bring this misery
to an end.
People, and that's one of the main arguments people have against the existence of God, is how can there be a loving God when there's so much pain and misery and suffering in the world? Well, if the church was doing its part they would say, wow, God is working through them. See? This
The
would be a
argument for God's
testimony.
character would be fulfilled.
Exactly. Now this is a video that I took. This is up in Mumbai.
Okay.
And we're just going through a slum. The Mumbai is home to one of the world's second largest slums. The first one is in Mexico City. But we're going into a slum. It's very difficult, I mean, to move, to do work and to go. I mean, how many...
You know what that smells like?
Yeah, it's raw sewage going through there.
And people, there's houses right there.
Yeah.
And right next to it.
And it's the kids' play yard. This is where the kids grow up.
Full houses on the train.
Play. And praise God, we have a church planting team working in that slum. So I was privileged to go in there because I've never visited a slum before. But this is an opportunity to see how a lot of people actually live.
Yeah, this is the second largest slum in the world, you said, right?
Now this is going down. You see these doors on the right? You come over, okay, there's a door, there's one family's dwelling. There's another family's dwelling.
Well, there's only like 2 feet between them.
Yeah, they're very small
Little
places.
tiny places.
In fact, one of our Bible workers came into our hotel room while we were there, and she didn't want to come in because it was too nice. And I found out that her entire apartment could fit inside my hotel room. I was very rebuked. So there's some rice. You can see.
Sometimes you can't control that, though. We don't like to stay in the nicest places, but sometimes they put us there because they're worried about our safety.
But this slum is built around the tracks, train tracks, and these are very active train tracks. And sometimes people get run over. You can see a train coming through there.
Yeah, the train is coming. It's on the other track, but
yeah, this is the route we're taking to get to our church plant, and you can see the trash there. People milling about. Obviously, they have to stand up when the train starts coming. Sometimes the train comes very fast. And who is that lady? What is her life?
What is her story? God knows.
You can see this little girl here.
Oh, laying in the dirt.
And then to get water, they come, each family comes, and twice a day, this guy comes out here with the pump, and he pumps water out of that little cistern into their individual pots, and that's what they use for their water at home.
Okay, so they carry water to their houses.
Right.
Houses such as they are.
Yeah. But what's amazing is I love these people. I mean, I don't know them, but they're sweet people. They got issues. They're people. They're human. But I mean, this is their backyard. This is a family.
Their kitchen.
Cooking
next
their
to the septic.
Fire. Now we're going down the last little alleyway or little place to go to. This is inside the house where they're having the worship, and I just kind of ran my camera around looking at all the different
materials they built with.
Exactly. It's just whatever they could find, really.
Wow.
Up against somebody else's home, and now we're going back out. We're going home, and this is what this kid is normal for them. I love this girl. Looking at me. Sweet people. And Jesus says, I've been anointed to preach the gospel to the poor. It's these people that Jesus prizes, and he feels their pain, feels their joy. That lady carrying all that water. This is their play yard. This is their jungle gym.
Next to the train tracks.
Yes, there's a train. All these people hanging out, and here's a group of people. Imagine your daughter, your son playing next to a train track like that. That's their backyard.
The laughs are infectious.
Yes. And here's a Ferris wheel.
That just kills me.
And they have to get them balanced. Here's a barber shop. There's a lady pounding out some hot
grains.
pepper
and
grains and whatever people bring. And so they've got their little industries there going. And the lady combing her hair out there on the street, a little child, just the front porch. Here's a man with his business. shooting somebody's sandals. And so there's a look into the slum. And this brings us to Isaiah 58.
Yes.
How to get closer to Christ. In Isaiah 58, if you remember, it says, we can turn there. It talks about a people that seem to seek his face, seem to delight to seek his face and his ways. But Jesus says, I'm not happy with you seeking my praise. Okay? And he says, shout with the voice of a trumpet blast. This is from the New Living Translation. Shout with the voice of a trumpet blast, shout aloud, don't be timid, tell my people Israel of their sins. Okay? And a lot of people have used this verse to kind of like criticize the church about this and that. But there's only
rebuke people.
There's one major thing that Jesus deals with in this chapter, and that is, we're going to find out. Tell my people, yet they act so pious. They come to church, well, here it says every day. Today I'd say like, at least once a week.
Well, here in mine it says they seek me daily. So it's like they're having morning devotions or praying or something.
Right, exactly. And seem to delight to learn all about me. Okay? They act like a righteous nation that would never abandon the laws of its God. And isn't that who we are? And it says, they ask me to take action on their behalf. In other words, we ask God, please help us. Please bless us. Please help us to be more Christ-like or be help, whatever. Pretending they want to be near me. Pretending they want to be near me. And he says, we have fasted before you. Why aren't you impressed? We've been very hard on ourselves and you don't even notice it. It's like we've been hard on it. We don't go to movies. We don't eat pork. We don't, we do all this stuff. We're trying to be good Christians.
We've denied ourselves something.
Exactly. And Jesus says, I will tell you why. It's because you are fasting to please yourself. You're doing all this stuff to please yourself. And he goes on and he says, this is the fast that I have chosen. Starting in verse 6. This is the fast I want. Free those who are wrongly imprisoned. Lighten the burden of those who work for you. Let the oppressed go free. Share your food with the hungry and give shelter to the homeless. Give clothes to those who need them. And do not hide from relatives who need your help, or do not hide from your own flesh. Then your salvation will come like the dawn, and your wounds will quickly heal. I love that. It's like, this is the solution. It's not to read your Bible more. If you ask...
They were doing that.
Yeah, if you ask 100 Adventists, how do you get closer to Jesus? You'll get almost at least 99 responses saying, read your Bible more and pray more. But Jesus is saying, no, that's not the way to get closer to me. The way to get closer to Jesus, the way to get closer to me, he says, is feed the hungry, clothe the naked, do good works to people that are oppressed. Help them. Help other people. That is how to get closer. That's what Jesus says, how to get closer to me. And he says, then your godliness will lead you forward, and the glory of the Lord will protect you from behind. Then when you call, the Lord will answer, yes, I'm here. He will quickly reply. This is God speaking. And at the end of this whole passage, he says, it says like an emphasis. He says, I, the Lord, the end of chapter 58 says, I, the Lord, have spoken. Okay, now when God speaks,
we should pay attention.
Yeah, because he speaks and worlds come into existence. We are here because he spoke. So now when he says, I speak, I, the Lord, have spoken, he not only spoke, but he confirmed that this is what he means. He's serious about this. That if you want to get closer to Christ, help the poor and needy. Because why? That's where he is. That's where his heart is. That's what causes him pain. And if he feels their pain, and we go and relieve that pain, then we are relieving the pain that he feels.
Right. Yeah, we have another quote that we're going to come to, but I don't want to go there too soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's amazing. I love that chapter.
Absolutely, and this is the key. And so we look at these people. I mean, look at this child. Look at this child. It's got
Why is she crying? We don't know.
Yeah,
but God knows.
She's dirty. Her hair is matted. Looks like she's got some lighter streaks in her hair. That probably means malnutrition. She doesn't have a shirt on. Maybe she's poor because she can't
doesn't
afford a
look
shirt.
filled in. I mean, she looks hungry.
Here's a family living in a pipe. This is not uncommon. This is not uncommon. You can find people like these, especially overseas. Here in America, it's very difficult to find truly poor because there's a lot of programs that can help these kind of people. But you go overseas.
Yeah, someone was sharing with us the other day. They went and tried to feed the homeless, and they were told they could get arrested for that because it's illegal where they were living.
Right.
Because they have shelters and they have programs, and the people are supposed to go to the shelters, and if you feed them, they won't.
Yes.
So it's like,
yeah, I hope we have a
could
chance
have gotten
to bring...
arrested for being kind.
Yeah. But here's a statistic. Nearly half the world's population, more than 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. $2.50 a day. That's, let's see, times, that's a week, times, let's say, times 7. So that's $15, $16 a week. That's like $50 a month. No, that's $75 a month. $75 a month. Half the world's population lives on that.
And that's more than our Bible workers.
Yeah, I mean, we struggle here in America on $75 a day. Somebody makes $75 a day, they're considered, poverty level. But here we've got half the world's population. More people live there. Half the world. More than 1.3 billion people. So like 1 out of every 7 or 6 people in the world live in extreme poverty. That's less than $1.25 a day. That's less than $40 a month. That's $40 a month times 12. So that's $500 a year. And more people, 1.3 billion people, there's 300 million people in America, in the United States. So that's 4 times. 4 times the population of the United States lives on less than $1.25 a day. Okay? So there's a lot of people out there. There's more people out there that live like that than live like we do. A lot more people. I mean, there's 1 billion children worldwide are living in poverty. So you can see these kids. I mean, they're on the very edge of survival. Just basic survival. According to UNICEF, 22,000 children die each day due to poverty. 22,000 children die every day because of poverty. That means almost 1,000 children die every hour. Okay, so we've been going a half hour. That means about 500 children have died since the show started due to poverty. Okay? More than 1 billion people lack adequate access to clean drinking water, and an estimated 400 million of these are children. You can see this kid that's got some kind of disease on his head.
Yeah.
And reaching out for some food, just a little bit.
Something, yeah.
Makes a huge difference. Because unclean water yields illness, roughly 443 million school days are missed every year due to unclean water from illness. And look at this lady drinking from a puddle on the side of the road. Have you ever been that thirsty?
No.
I haven't either. I've always had other access to water. In 2011, 165 million children under the age of 5 were stunted. They had reduced rate of growth and development due to chronic malnutrition. It's just not enough food, not enough nutrients. You can see these kids.
Skin and bones.
Yeah. And you may feel the urge to look away, but don't look away. Don't look away. These are kids, and these images are of people that Christ died for. And He's not looking away. And I fear that if I look away, will Christ look away from me? Because I may be better, more comfortable, and more attractive on the outside. At least I'm not skin and bones. But what about my heart? And Christ.
But Christ's sacrifice was not just for you or for me. It was for them as well.
Yes. Here's a powerful image.
Contrast.
A little child that's starving to death. It's got flies in his eyes. And here's somebody that's eating a rather large hamburger.
Yeah.
A contrast. Preventable diseases like diarrhea and pneumonia take the lives of 2 million children a year who are too poor to afford proper treatment. Look at this child. A quarter of all humans live without electricity. Approximately 1.6 billion people. I don't know how I could survive without electricity.
You'd have a different kind of life.
Yeah. Look at these kids. They're just trying to, where are their parents? I have no idea. Just trying to survive. I'm told by people that know poverty more than I do that the main objective of the day is to put something in there to stop that thing from hurting, the stomach from hurting. As if they can get some food into their stomach, then they're good for the day. And then the next day they do it again. 80% of the world.
We have a question from a viewer, but let's finish.
Okay, 80% of the world population lives on less than $10 a day. 80%.
$10 a day.
We're upset when we can only get a $10 an hour job. $10 a day. And 80% of the world lives like that. Whoa. Look at this. Here's a family cooking their food on sand for floor. It would cost approximately $40 billion to offer basic education, clean water and sanitation, reproductive health for women, and basic health and nutrition to every person in every developing country. $40 billion. Okay? Americans spend nearly $40 billion a year to lose weight.
So we're overeating.
Our biggest problem
and they have
is
no health care and no
we eat too much.
Water and no food.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's a family living right there on the dump. The World Food Program says the poor are hungry and their hunger traps them in poverty. Okay, you have a question.
Okay, from a viewer, how do we solve a problem as big as that slum John videotaped? Could people be overwhelmed by the size of the task, not knowing how to solve such a pervasive need? I know we've got a little bit we're going to talk about.
Yes.
About that, but how do we deal with that overwhelming?
Yes, that's a very good question. It's a vital question because that feeling can incapacitate us. And I've had to deal with that. I've had to struggle with that feeling time and time again. And I think I'd like to deal with it now. I'd like to talk about it now.
Okay.
There's a story that I was told that has given me the courage to go forward and do something. And it's the story of a little boy. This man was coming to the beach, and he saw this little boy, and he was throwing something into the ocean. He got closer, and he saw that there was thousands and thousands of starfish, dead. Not dead, but they were washed up on the beach. And this kid was throwing one after another in, and the man comes up to him and says, "Why are you doing that? There's no way you can throw in all these starfish, because if he didn't throw the starfish in, they would die."
Right, they would dry out.
Right.
They need water.
He says, "There's no way you can throw all these starfish in. You can't make any difference. You can't make a difference to all these thousands and hundreds of thousands of starfish." He picks up another starfish, and he looks at it, he says, "Yeah, but to this one, I can make all the difference in the world." Throws it back in. One person.
One at a time.
One person. God would sacrifice his son for one person. So you may not be able to solve the whole problem, but you can affect one person and make all the difference for one person. The truth is, with the economics of scale, compared to what we earn here in America, compared to what will save somebody in another country, you could save hundreds. Look at this. Feed 1,000 children, one child 1,000 meals, or 1,000 children 1 meal. This doesn't just give them a meal, it gives them 2 hours of education and a meal. A lot of these kids, it's their second meal of the day. So this is, in some of these kids' cases, the difference between being stunted and thriving. Okay? $250. 1,000 meals. Okay. I know of a restaurant in Copenhagen that you can spend $650 on one meal. I haven't been there myself. Hunger is the number one
That would
cause
be
of
a
death in the
waste.
world, killing more than HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. This is normal. I mean, there are more people living like these little children, than live the way we live. More.
We think this is normal, the way we live.
But Nelson Mandela has a beautiful quote: "Poverty is not an accident. Like slavery." Got a misspelling there. Like slavery and apartheid, it is man-made and can be removed by the action of human beings. So you and I, we can make a difference. And this is a video of our experience when we
Of one of the schools that these buttons help support.
Yes. We saw this need. It's like, what can we do? We had to do something, and this is our story.
I visited this place at 4:30 in the morning and found these people sleeping on the sidewalk because their houses had been swept away by a recent flood. They didn't ask for money. They asked for an education for their children. How can you say no? We had to do something. Some of these children are considered outcasts, untouchables, who would normally not be allowed a good education. Here they have a chance to hear the good news of Jesus and his gift of love to this world. They are learning of the freedom that Jesus wants to give them.
I thank you that we can be here together this evening.
According to the New York Times, over 40% of the children in India suffer from malnutrition. Will you let God use you to help these children? It only costs $7 a month. You may not get a photo and a monthly update from your gift, but you will have the satisfaction of knowing that somewhere over there a child is getting fed and learning to read because of you. And they're getting more than food. They're learning about Jesus. And who can measure the value of one of these little ones? It can only be measured by the cross.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Dee Dee.
Thank you.
Dee Dee's the one that's normally in there taking the Facebook and Twitter messages and passing them on, but Dee Dee has something she'd like to share about an experience.
Yeah, a number of weeks ago, I came across a Facebook post advertising something called blessing bags, which were for the homeless people. And I thought, that sounds like a great idea. These blessing bags had like little soap, combs, toothbrush,
The basics.
granola bars, trail mix, things for the homeless people that would help them out. And I shared it on my page, and someone else saw it and said, yeah, that would be a great idea. So we made a plan to go to Walmart and buy a bunch of supplies and make up like 10 or so bags in Ziploc. And so we went to Walmart and began searching for supplies. And halfway through, I thought, we should probably call a shelter and find out what they really need here in Chattanooga area. So I made a call to a shelter and found out that they have more than enough supplies that they need. She said, we really don't need anything. We give out bags to homeless people that come here, and we're not really in need. I said, what about any other shelter? She said, no. She said, well, maybe one. You could try them. But they get supplies coming in that they give, and they were well taken care of. And I said, well, what about the people on the side of the road? Where do they sleep at night? What food do they eat? And she told me that they make probably about $25,000 a year doing what they're doing.
Standing on the side of the road.
Tax-free. Standing on the road. She said it's their job. it's their business. And I said, so at night, where do they go? And she said, a motel. They make enough money to go to a motel and get some food that they need.
Wow.
And I was shocked because here I thought they were under a bridge at night, and I don't know, maybe some are, but her take on it was that they were well taken care of and making more than probably a large number of people living in this area. So I was very surprised and just shocked because I've had a real burden for these people on the side of the road. So I went to my friend and we aborted our project. I said, yeah, let's not do it. And so now my heart really wants to give to those 22,000 that are daily dying of poverty. And so
Right.
that completely changed my thinking. That experience really changed my thinking.
And that's the question, though. Do you know anybody that's dying of hunger?
Not here in the U.S. I don't.
Now, you went to India this last spring or winter. What did you see there in comparison?
What a difference there from here. Their quality of life, their the amount they eat is different. Their quality of food is quite a bit different than we have here. We didn't get to a lot of the slums like we saw on the videotape earlier.
But just driving down the street,
Yeah, it's
you saw
Trash.
people sleeping on the sidewalks.
sleeping on the road, lot of trash. It's a lot dirtier, and it's quite a bit different. So I'm sure we do have a lot of poverty here in the U.S., but it's much different over there.
And you work for a ministry, I understand, that supports Bible workers in Asia, in India. How much do those Bible workers make in a month?
$60 a month.
So they're on $2 a day.
Yeah. And that is enough for them to have a home and get by with food.
Yeah. And one lady,
Just barely.
Just
one lady,
barely.
because the funding didn't keep up, one lady ended up in the park. But how much did it cost her to pay the 10 months of rent on a house to get into a rental?
Yeah, that 10 months, I believe it's $45 a month, so $450.
$45 a month, and she's making $60 a month?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's nothing left over for a flat screen TV or even a meal out. There's
Right.
there's
Yeah,
nothing
they're,
left over.
they're at
Right.
bare minimum.
And people talk about, here, some people are so poor that they end up sleeping in their cars, but they own cars. Over there, they don't even own the cars.
No.
And so our level has changed.
Our level of expectation and our level of understanding and our understanding of reality is completely different from the majority of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
That circle that we saw at the beginning where 80% of the world live, 90% of the world live inside that circle.
No,
It
more
was
than
80.
half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Too many statistics. I got confused. So more than half of the world lives inside that circle.
Right.
And their style of life is completely different. Even their poverty is completely different
Right.
from what we see.
One thing I did notice, though, with the children over there, if they had food and had shelter, they were happy with what they had. That's a big difference with the kids over here.
Their expectations were much lower.
Much lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I've seen kids over there do amazing things with garbage. Make I don't remember what it was. It was like a little truck or something, and they'd made it with used bottles and different things. Like bottle caps for the wheels, and so inventive with almost nothing, sticks and rocks and bottles, and it's just happy doing it.
So if they're happy
But-
and we're less happy, does that mean we shouldn't help them? I think, go ahead.
No, they have great needs from
Yeah.
what I saw.
I think from what you did was very smart. And I think that we can be smart in our giving. Find people of real need and try to help. Find organizations that do this. You know, find people that are dying and help them.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But the amazing thing about a lot of this poverty is because it's an outgrowth of their belief system. And so the best thing you can actually do is give them the gospel. The gospel, in a lot of ways, takes care of the financial and the poverty. And I've heard this testimony of Pastor Ralph Watts, who was the president of the Southern Asia Division for 30 years. Or he lived in India for 30 years. He's talked about when you bring the gospel to a village, over time it grows out of poverty because you get feelings of, concepts of personal worth, concepts of
So they tend to take care of themselves and their environment more.
education.
And each other.
Yep, all these things start to grow. I want to read this here. This is from Christian Service, page 187. Good deeds are the fruit that Christ requires us to bear. Kind words, deeds of benevolence. That benevolence is giving out of generous heart, of tender regard for the poor. Tender regard for the poor is one of the fruits that Christ requires us to bear. The needy, the afflicted. When hearts sympathize with hearts burdened with discouragement and grief, when the hand dispenses to the needy, when the naked are clothed, the stranger made welcome to a seat in your parlor and a place in your heart, angels are coming very near, and an answering strain is responded to in heaven. Here's,
Speaking of making something with nothing.
yes.
Wow. Are those bottles?
Can you
Yeah.
believe being in a position where
And they match.
where you had to do this to
have
protect your
shoes.
feet?
Well, in some of those countries, they have creatures that live in the sand. They get inside their feet and eat their feet away. I saw the most horrendous pictures. Just
Every act of justice, mercy, and benevolence makes melody in heaven. The Father from his throne beholds those who do these acts of mercy and numbers them with his most precious treasures.
so if we want to draw near to Jesus,
Yes, and they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels. It's the people that take care of the people that are poor. That
people
help.
in need, the people that
You know, if you really want to draw close to Christ, go to Africa and find this child, a child like this, and feed him. You know, this is why we're doing Mission TV, is to give these people a voice. You know, people that live on $1 a day, you know, they can't call us up. They don't have
they
family
say, I need food.
that have extra money in the bank. You know, even in the Philippines, you know, very few people have a bank account. A bank account. They can't call us. They can't call somebody in America and say, look, I'm starving here. I'm dying of stuff. They can't even afford a phone call. There was one time when we were doing an evangelistic series and a lady came up and asked for money because she was starving. And so somebody gave her a 500 rupee note. And she was walking around and said, I asked for money, and why did they give me this piece of paper, this trash? We didn't realize that she had never seen
Paper
paper money before. She'd always dealt in just the coins.
Wow.
I mean, like, you know, 100 coin note, that's $2. And she'd never seen paper
100
money.
rupee
So there's no saving for the future for her. I mean,
There's
here
no
in
way
the
to
US,
save.
it's so important to have for
retirement,
have the retirement
and
and
for
the-
save so they can pay cash for a car or
emergency
whatever.
funds, and that's just beyond their thinking to
Yeah,
have.
there's no way they can even think about that.
Yeah. Every merciful act to the needy, to the needy and the suffering, is regarded as though done to Jesus. This is biblical. So how would you like to live in a place like that?
Wow.
A lot of people live there. More people live in places like that than live the way we live. When you succor, what does succor mean?
Take care of or strengthen.
Okay, help. When you help the poor, sympathize with the afflicted and oppressed, and befriend the orphan, you bring yourselves into a closer relationship to Jesus. Can it be any plainer than that?
And that's the linking together of what seemed like two different topics this evening.
Which was?
That is a crumb from the rich man's table and how to draw closer to Jesus.
This is what
So
is
when
missing.
we, as the rich, I mean, ultimately we're rich.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over here.
Yes.
When we give them even the crumbs from our table, we draw closer to Jesus.
Right.
And that's what we all want. We want to be closer to Jesus.
Right.
So by helping them, it reaches our heart, and we reap a reward of knowing that we're helping and having that closer walk with God.
Right.
And there's joy. There's so much joy in helping other people.
Yeah. I used to have a sports car, and I loved that sports car. You know, I was very proud of it and had fun driving it. Now I have a couple of evening schools, and we were there just this last spring, and I realized, you know, I'm happier having those evening schools than having that sports car. It gives me greater joy, greater satisfaction, and I know there's a future there. This is just some images of poverty, because
I wish we had more of our pictures from the gypsy school where you took that picture of the little boy that we showed at the beginning, the boy we used on the ad. And we used to have a school in a gypsy colony, and the children there, I mean, they were so filthy, but they were so happy that we came to see them. They were so happy that they had this school where they could have a meal, a second meal. That little boy had just eaten, and it was a cup of rice water. I mean, that was his meal, because that's all they had.
And he was grateful
Just
for
the
that.
water with maybe a few granules of rice in it, you know, I mean, we have no idea what God goes through every day.
that's right.
Watching us take care of ourselves and his other children dying.
And by the end of the show, almost 1,000 kids would have died from hunger. This is a trash city in the Philippines. And people, a lot of people, thousands of people go there, and they sift through the trash. Whole families live
That's
there.
their job.
That's their job. ASAP, there's another one like this in Phnom Penh. In ASAP, Adventist Southeast Asia projects, they built a school right next to that slum. And so they're bringing these kids out of the slum, out of this trash heap, and they're providing them education, clothing, whatever they need to.
Food.
That's
That's
beautiful.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. I love that ministry. Here's the kid. This is his normal life. This is that's how he fills his tummy. These kids they're just as real. They have just as much needs and concerns, burden. This is a story. You can do a search for it on the internet. But this is a picture. This is a fake article. It's a fake newspaper article, and the article really is about why you'll never see this headline. Even though 20,000 children died yesterday, I mean, if a bomb fell and 20,000 people died, it would be like worldwide news, and a war would start. But over 20,000 kids die every day, and it's not news because it comes, day after day after day. It's too big of a story. And so we have to be that voice. We have to be that voice for the people that don't have a voice. This is something that can be. Oh, here's the picture.
The starfish picture.
Yeah, I was going to tell my story here about the starfish, but we'll go on. Now,
we have to recognize that their suffering is God's suffering.
Yes.
We have to recognize that as God's children, we have a responsibility to them as God's children to share that love that He has, that joy that He has, that longing that He has for them.
Yes. Yes, and this is the thing, this is what's so necessary in my character growth, in my becoming Christ-like. He didn't turn away from the ugly. He didn't turn away from the dying. He came and became one of us. And there was one time when I was talking about, this scene right here, this is a normal scene in India.
Many,
Oh,
many, many places.
more people live like this than live the way we live. And I was sharing my burden to a Sabbath school class once, and how I was so impassioned and so burdened for these people that were so poor. And one lady said, "You don't have to feel that way. You don't have to take this burden on yourself, because there are organizations that take care of this kind of thing." And I said, if my heart doesn't break for these people, then what do I have? What kind of heart do I have? I have a heart of stone. I have a stony heart, a selfish heart. But if my heart breaks for the things that break the heart of Christ, then maybe I can enter into his suffering and into his joy. And this is what Christ wants. He says, "I want to take out your stony heart. I will sprinkle you with clean water, and I will remove the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh, a heart that feels pain, that feels other people's pain, that sympathizes." And it's dangerous. Yeah, it may hurt. But in that is the only really true joy in life. A heart that lives unto itself is a heart that will die. A heart that lives for others, that Jesus says, if a corn is cast into the ground, it dies, but it bears fruit. And if I cast my life into the lives of humanity, into the needs of humanity, it will bear fruit in Christ. It will bear fruit because it starts to resonate with heaven.
Wow. Well, we're challenged by this last photo.
A child dies every 3 seconds. And this is a challenge. This is a life-size challenge. Go and find somebody that's dying of hunger. They're in the world, but I don't know anybody. Do you know anybody that's dying of hunger?
No.
Do you know anybody I don't know anybody that's dying of hunger. I mean, we're working in areas that are very poor. They could be stunted, but in the areas we're working, I don't think they're actually dying of hunger.
Yeah.
They may be on the edge. I mean, poverty.
They're pretty hungry.
And malnutrition. There's a lot of kids that are malnourished,
Right.
but is actually dying of hunger. I don't know anybody like that. I know the general area of some places where there's high mortality rate of death, of hunger, but I haven't actually been there. So this is the challenge, is to find a family who's dying of hunger and then figure out how can we help. That's not easy. It's not easy to find those places. They're not going to be on the main highways. They're not going to be near the big shopping malls, near the big airports. They're going to be in places that kind of hard to get to, maybe big cultural barriers, maybe big language barriers, but they're out there.
Yeah.
If 20,000 kids every single day are dying of hunger, they're out there. And a lot of them are in India, a lot of them are in Africa. So those are 2 places we can start.
So what we found in India is that when we give them the gospel, we give them, like in the evening schools, we give them food, we give them education, we give them a worship time so they learn about the only true God. And so, giving them Jesus is what's most important to us.
But this is the beautiful thing, is because when you help the children, then it takes away prejudice. Because if we go in and do an evangelistic series in some of these villages, there's huge amount of prejudice against us. We go and help their children, year after year after year, then they see that we're there to help. Then they start to get interested. Then they start to want to learn. And it's a day in, day out exposure to the gospel. After 4, 5, 6, 8 years of this exposure to the gospel, they know what it's all about. The kids know what it's all about. It's much better than like an 8-day evangelistic series. Those need to happen, but helping people, helping the poor. This is what Christ did. He healed the sick. He gave his breakfast, his lunch, to somebody that was more needy. And then when he started to preach, they gladly heard him because they saw that he cared.
Well, our time is up. And I know there's a lot more that we could have covered, and I'm sure that we've gotten some emails while Dee Dee's been here on the set, unable to forward them to us. And I'm sorry we didn't involve you, the viewer, better this evening. But feel free to send us your comments. We appreciate so much the feedback. We got feedback from a viewer earlier that just was enjoying the show and just appreciating the fact that someone cares enough to do the work. So we just want to invite you to participate in what Jesus is trying to do in the world today. You know, in Matthew 25, he says, "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me." So if we want to draw closer to Jesus, we have to be where he is. We have to do what he would do, were he here, standing here instead of us. I just want to thank you for watching Mission TV Live tonight, for joining us, and remind you that next Monday night at 8 we'll be here also. And again, I have to say, we don't have our topic settled for next week, but please keep an eye out for email or Facebook post to tell you what the topic will be. And please remember that Jesus loves you, and he loves them too. And they are truly part of our family, and we need to help him reach them. We are his hands and his feet. He wants us involved. He requires us to be involved. It is vital to our own salvation and more vital to theirs. May God bless you until we see you again on the Mission TV Live.